Hey everyone, I'm Kiri and today I wanted to share my own process for rendering with an anime finish. Rendering is the part of the drawing process where you define all the details and finish of your piece. There are a lot of types of rendering like semi-realistic, realistic, and a ton of ways to stylize the render. For this one, I'm picking a kinda simple rendering for the skin and a more stylized for the clothes. I think that helps a lot to sell the anime style. For this drawing, I sketched out my character, in this case my own avatar, and laid out the flat colors as you can see. For this artwork, since I'm feeling very intrepid, I'm not going to lay out the cell shading and I'll be painting on the shadows manually. This allows me more freedom, picking out a lot of different hues. Now I'll speed up the process and I'll be explaining some of the stuff I'm doing. I like to start the contrast in the face, defining the lash line with a dark color. Here you can see me cleaning up edges and darkening some places. This is a lot of cleaning up since I didn't make a line art, but that's okay. I like the organic look a sketch can provide. Using a hard brush with opacity based on pressure, I clean up and define my shapes. It's important you work on your edges, otherwise the render can look messy. Doing this also will help me when I draw the line art later. There's a ton of cleaning involved, and I have to make sure that all the edges work nice. Since I did a sketch and not a line art, I have to clean a lot of the edges. Some base shading planning. Here I'm starting to play with the shapes the shadows will create. It is important that these shapes look and feel interesting from the very start. Now I'm defining contrast in the face with some line art. Contrast is very important to me since it makes my character look interesting. Keep that in mind when picking your colors. For those who are interested, the brushes I used for the rendering were two. A hard round brush with pressure opacity and another hard round brush with pressure size, the second one being the sharpest. I'll go back and forth between the two to blend, set edges apart, and make the line art. Of course, I used the sharpest for the edges and the line art since I want it to be really crisp. I had some trouble with the black part of her blouse, so I ended up simplifying it and it helped a lot. Sometimes less is more. Keep the blur blending tool to a minimum. At least that's what I do. If I overuse it, it can ruin my edges and my texture. I only use it in the softest parts of the skin, like the legs, the chest, and a little bit on the abdomen, but not too much. A lot of cleaning. I have to make sure my shapes are good and clean before I can get into more detail and play more with the colors. Rendering is, I would say, the most tedious part of drawing. So just take your time and relax while you paint. Don't get too stressed out and enjoy the process. It is really nice to see how your drawing slowly comes together. When you are shading, you really want to separate stuff. For example, here, I want the parts of the arms to separate from the rest of the coat. So I shade there. Also, I would recommend that you give the eyes enough time to detail them. Usually, when you see a drawing or a person, the first thing you see is the eyes. So, give them love, detail them a lot. It will really pay off in the end. You can play around with it as well and have a lot of fun. The eye shines are my favorite. Sometimes you can see I put the drawing in black and white. I do this to have a better grasp of my values. That is how dark and how light my drawing is. Having a good contrast is key for my drawing to feel nice, so keep it in mind. You can set a layer in color and paint it black, and you can turn it on or off depending on when you want to see your drawing in black and white. It is a really useful thing to do. If you have some trouble on how does something look like, don't be scared of looking for reference pictures or taking photos yourself. It is totally fine if you do not know how some things work. Here at the line art, I want it to be really crisp and thin, so I tend to do that. Really thin and a little bit wobbly just to give it some texture, but just a little bit. I think it gives a lot. Painting and the blurring. I really like to do that in really soft places like the legs. Here you can see I'm starting to add more texture and depth to the shadows. My goal here was to make the dress and coat look almost glass-like. So I pushed the shadows and the highlights as much as I can without it looking fake. This is a little bit hard, but you will get there if you practice enough. The skirt was giving me a really hard time, so I just took my time and did what I could to set the shadows and the lights in a good way. As you can see, I'm still working on it, but I like the final result at the end, so it was worth it. Don't get frustrated, as you can look for reference in internet as I said before, and it may really help you. It might inspire you as well. Shading is the way we convey the volumes of our drawing. See how I define the leg muscles with the shading in them. Don't forget to do your anatomy studies though, they will really help in this part. I think I'm getting there with the glass-like thing. What do you think? Some people will say that the line art comes before, but this is a new way that you could try and maybe you will like it. What I like about this method is that it gives me a little bit more freedom. When I do the line art first, I have to stick by the line art, and it restricts us a little bit. So when you sketch and paint over it, you can do whatever you want. As you can see, I have my character in only one layer, and if I need it, especially for the clothing, I make a new layer so I can paint and erase as I want. Then when I like the result, I just merge down, so I have it in one layer again. This helps me a lot in case I want to edit some stuff. For example, I can use the liquify tool to change things if they don't look right. And because everything is in just one layer, it's super easy. I use the color picker a lot, and you should too. That way you can set up your colors and then just pick the colors from this drawing. It makes the process much easier. The color picker tool is usually in the Alt key, but be sure to check it. You can set it in the key that you want. That's what I do. I also changed the size of my brushes with the numbers 1 and 2. I set it that way so my process is much faster, but you can set it wherever you like. Just look up for your preferences and check the key bindings. It may help in your process and make your drawings much more faster and cleaner. I'm defining more the line art now that I have most of my shading done. Now I can pick how dark I want my lines without them clashing with my drawing. The hair was the hardest liner due to all the curves and complicated shapes. But be sure to give it enough time. It can make or break your character if it looks sloppy. Painting the hair can be really fun but also a little bit scary. What I like to do with the hair is use a lot of color variations. As you can see, I have some purples and maybe a little bit of orange down it. For the hair, I use the darkest colors very sporadically, especially in the places where hair strands overlap each other. This helps a lot to give it volume and make it look interesting. And don't forget to define the strands with some highlights. It really helps to make the hair whole, and it'll make a lot of difference. Watch how I keep the liner to only this exterior here in the hair. I like the interior as it was, so I thought that it didn't need any lines inside. Now to editing. Because drawing is almost done, I only go and edit some stuff. I use a layer set to multiply and I make the background darker. And with another layer set on glow, add glow actually, I give it some light. See how I put it in black and white because I want to make sure her body is still easy to see. This is a really neat trick, the black color layer set, because I really want my contrast to be good. So I just edit and change stuff in these layers to make it look nice. I add some more effects on Add Glow, and now I'm masking new wings to make it easy to work on them. In an 80% opacity layer, I paint the wings very carefully with the saturated red. I then Ctrl and click the image of the layer we just painted to select it and go back to my character layer. I cut and paste the wings below my character, and now I can finally paint on them without messing my previous work. It is a bit tedious, but it's super helpful, I promise. Edges can serve as texture too. See how I made the wings wobbly on the outside? That's because I wanted them to feel a bit fussy, but painting fussiness would have been too much unnecessary detail. Some shadow for the contrast, and now we're finishing off the final details. Here are highlights, and don't forget her simple detailing as well. These little clothing details can really make a difference. Keep them in mind. At the very end, I played a bit with levels to make her brighter and crispier. Another tool I really like to use is color balance. Play with these adjustments to bring your colors to life. Now for the background. I wanted something with plants, so I got to play with some brushes and colors. I played a bit more with the background, adding the squares, and finished up some final details in her clothes. And that's it! Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked the final result and I hope you learned something. See you later!